Arturas Karnisovas is clearly cooking up something with the Chicago Bulls. Over the last few days, the Bulls have made several trades. They've gotten a lot of second-round picks back, stacked the roster with guards, and we still have tons of cap space. We have tons of flexibility. But the only thing that Arturas Karnisovas could possibly be cooking up is his and Billy Donovan's exit from Chicago if for some reason this next phase does not work. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, Dalen Terry has officially been traded to the New York Knicks for Guerschon Yabusele, the Coby White move. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And so let's start off with what we did not cover, because I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I saw the Dalen Terry for Yabusele move, and I was like, I'm not finna do a live stream at past midnight for a Dalen Terry trade. But let's go ahead and cover it, right? So Dalen Terry is on his way to the New York Knicks for Guerschon Yabusele. What does this trade do for the Chicago Bulls? It does nothing. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. Yabusele is washed, and he has not been good. Now, he played good, in international basketball a couple of years ago. We got him back into the NBA because before that he was outside the NBA. He got signed by the Philadelphia 76ers. They ended up moving him to the New York Knicks. And, it is what it is at that point in time. Now, moving Dalen Terry for a player like this that's 30 years old, like, I get it. Dalen Terry was not great for the Chicago Bulls. I don't look at Dalen Terry like some great piece for the Chicago Bulls that had tons of potential or anything like that anymore. I do think Dalen Terry can still round out. I think he was a very raw player. I think he may be one of those players that we look back on and maybe he puts it together in a few years and we're like, hey, Dalen Terry is quietly turn into a solid role player on the back end of a player on a team's bench. But trading him for Guerschon Yabusele is a big nothing burger. Like, you got another forward in here that's 6'7", 265 pounds. Like, I mean, him and Dalen Terry are basically the same height. Guerschon's just, of course, a lot, bigger, a heavier of a player, right? But that's really about it. So, yeah, you add some frontcourt depth to make your roster make a little bit more sense, which I guess is cool. But at the end of the day, it's like, all right, yeah, this is a nothing burger of a trade, in my opinion, right? It is unfortunate. Like Dalen Terry talked about, he said this. The human in me would say, though, but you have to understand this is what you get called upon for. So I'm just doing my best to stay ready, and every time I get a chance to play, I think I've done a pretty good job at that. So does he get a chance in New York? I have no idea, right? But hey, Dalen Terry may get a chance. The New York Knicks do need some defense, so maybe he gets a chance to bring some defense to that New York Knicks team. What do we get in Yabusele? I mean, yeah, we get a small forward, a power forward guy who's played some small ball center at times, right? He used to be this very athletic two-way player, right? That was when he was originally, was drafted. That was the ceiling there. But at the end of the day, he really hadn't really done much. He didn't do much. But after his play overseas in the 2024 Olympics, he got another opportunity to come back to the U.S. and play basketball here. And, for what it's worth, in 2024-25, he did average 11 points, shooting 50% from the field, 38% from three, and 72% from the free throw line with 5.6 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and almost a steal per game. But then that went all the way down this season to 2.7 points per game, and he really doesn't have a role. So I don't think this is a major trade for the Chicago Bulls. I don't think this does really much of anything for the Chicago Bulls. I just think this is a trade that you look at and you say, okay, you got off of Dalen Terry. You got in, a bigger player in here, and now your roster as far as guards and forwards just looks a little bit better, which we'll talk about here in a second, but it really doesn't do much for your team. Now, I don't think it necessarily hurts your team either. It's not like Dalen Terry was lighting the world on fire either, so I don't think this is like a trade that I'm looking at and saying, oh, my God, it completely hurts the Chicago Bulls. We gave up a young prospect for XYZ. Dalen Terry was probably not being retained at the end of the season. Guerschon Yabusele is probably not going to be retained at the end of the year. What this does do for the Chicago Bulls, though, in regards to that contract, like, it maintains what the Bulls have already been doing. It maintains a cap space and cap flexibility, which seems like has overall just been the Bulls' focus here, is make moves, but maintain your cap flexibility. Don't take back long-term bad money. Don't do those type of things. And if you don't do that, that's basically what the Bulls are looking at. But I will say this, even in that sense, it does hurt the Bulls in a little bit. Let me correct myself on that one, because if I'm not mistaken, Guerschon Yabusele has a player option next year at $5.7 million. So he's definitely going to pick that up. There's no way Yabusele's not going to pick up that. So unless you plan on rerouting Yabusele to a different team, which this still kind of all the speculation around the Bulls, you're still going to be left with less assets now than what you were. This is the first move that AK has made that potentially could cut in to the cap space next year. So it makes the move even more head scratching, which brings me to my next point, right? And to get there, I got to talk about the Coby White trade as well. I know I dropped an emergency episode. Not everybody listens or watches the emergency episode, so I got to kind of recap it here. The Chicago Bulls didn't trade Coby White. I want to be clear here. They didn't trade Coby White. They liquidated an asset. As somebody who most of my financial career has been in finance, they liquidated an asset. They didn't trade him and get some great asset back. They liquidated what he was. And for that, they got back Collin Sexton. So they trade Mike Conley Jr., they trade Coby White to the Charlotte Hornets, and in return for that, they get Collin Sexton and they get Ousmane Dieng, right? Now, depending on how you view the prospect of Ousmane Dieng, it is going to drastically color how you view this trade. And I want to be clear there, right? Now, I don't view it very favorably. So let me go ahead and bury the lead for y'all there. I don't view like Ousmane Dieng. I've seen people be like, oh my God, he's a shooter off the bench. The dude, he doesn't shoot the ball effectively, never has, right? It just never has. Oh my God. Oh, the Thunder thought so highly of him that they traded up to draft him before they drafted Jalen Wood. Okay, cool. All right. But did they think highly enough for him to play him? Right? Okay, cool. We've traded up to get players that ended up not being much. Shout out to Doug McDermott. What did he end up being in the NBA? A decent player, better than Ousmane Dieng. So I'm looking at this and saying, all right, you got a young 22-year-old player. Cool. If you want to be able to say, hey, we got a former lottery pick, which is a phrase that AK loves to say, we feel like we got a lottery pick in this. He likes to talk about players in that sense. All right, you got a marketing ploy. You can say that you got a basically a young player who was drafted in the lottery, who's still 22 years old, still a very young player. Hell, Terrence Shannon Jr. was just drafted. He's like 3 years older than Ousmane Dieng, who Ousmane's already been in the league for 4 years. So okay, cool. You got a young prospect. Congrats, bravo on that one. But like, what is he actually going to turn into? Because unless you actually plan on developing him, which you already have a young, versatile forward that you have to develop in Noah Essengay, what does Ousmane Dieng really bring you? Nothing. He's a contract. He's a piece. And unless he shows otherwise, I'm not even going to get into this whole thing of, oh my God, we got another young player with potential. I'm not doing that no more with this team. I'm not doing that no more. This trade for Coby White was a nothing burger. You basically liquidated Coby White into two players and a second round pick. Well, 3 second round picks. Let me quote it correctly. My bad. And so you liquidated an asset. And in that, okay, cool. But what are you going to do? Like I've said before, right? All these trades right now, none of this shit makes sense. Unless you plan on doing something with it. You didn't win this trade deadline. You did some shit. You were active, but I don't get the Bulls fans that are heralding this trade deadline, but we'll get more into that. Coby White was liquidated. And that's perfectly fine. Sometimes you do have to liquidate assets. I'm not saying that like it's some, necessarily huge knock on the front office. Sometimes you do just have to liquidate assets. The way that I talked about it when we were in the Discord is that if the Chicago Bulls knew that they either don't plan to, don't want to, or we're not going to be able to retain Coby White, so they turned around and said, let's trade him now, let's get something back, right? Yeah, you could have waited and tried to sign and trade him in the offseason. That could have been great, but typically you get less back in sign and trades. You probably would have wound up, instead of players, you would have just wound up with the 3 second round picks and maybe an expiring contract. So instead of getting an expiring contract that expires at the end of next season, you get an expiring contract that expires at the end of this season with Collin Sexton. It doesn't impact your cap space. You get Ousmane Dieng. So that's the thing that I want everybody to realize. People who say things like, well, you could have signed and traded him in the offseason. Yeah, but if you sign and traded him in the offseason, you end up just getting expiring salaries back. That actually affects your free agent capital for this season, or this upcoming offseason. And that's a part that makes sense, right? So, okay, you liquidated it. Cool, right? And that brings me to the overarching thing, and the thing that I said at the beginning of the show, right? The roster balance of this Bulls team, it makes no sense. I'm just going to say it all so we can get it out there. As far as guards, we have Josh Giddey, Ayo Dosunmu, Trey Jones, Jaden Ivey, Anthony Simons, Collin Sexton. 6 guards on this team. Isaac Okoro is a swing. He can play either guard or he can play forward. So you got Isaac Okoro on this team. As far as wings, you got Modest Buzelis, Patrick Williams, Julian Phillips, Noah Essengay, who's out the season. That's the wings that you have. As far as bigs, Ousmane Dieng, if you want to count him as a big at 6'9", but a very light player. Guerschon Yabusele at 265, but 6'7". Jalen Smith, who's he's played center more his career, but we've seen him here. He's better at power forward. He's 6'9". And Zach Collins. That's your bigs that you have right now. So this roster, the balance here, it doesn't make any sense unless another move is coming. And that's the thing that we keep saying. Another move could be coming. But at the end of the day, we'll see, right? Now, for some Bulls fans are looking at this and they're saying, this is a covert tank. This is a quiet tank. And maybe it is, right? I'll say we got to wait and see to where the dust settles at the end of the trade deadline, because it does feel like the Chicago Bulls are stacking assets for something. But feelings aren't facts. And that's just the reality of the world that we live in. Feelings are not facts. And therefore, it could feel like AK and Eversley are going to do something with all these assets that they stacked. And for the love of God, I hope that they are. I hope that they are planning something that none of us see, that another move is coming before this trade deadline ends, and boom, we're off to the races. Everything kind of makes sense, or whatever else it is. But at this point right now, even as a covert tank that people are talking about, it doesn't make any sense. You're going to tank the last month and a half of the season? Okay, cool. If that's your plan, that's your plan, right? But at this point, you're not going to bottom out to have the best odds to get a top 5 pick. Now, we've seen, too, is that the teams with the best odds in the lottery don't always end up with the top 3 picks, right? Look at the way that the last couple of drafts have worked out. So there's absolutely a world in which the Bulls, just by nature of missing the play-in, they're able to get a high enough pick if they get some lottery luck. But when have the Bulls ever been lucky, right? The Charlotte Hornets, as things stand right now, which are one spot below the Chicago Bulls, they're going to pass the Bulls up for the 10th seed. And that could happen as soon as tonight. That could happen today. I want to be clear. That could happen absolutely today. The Charlotte Hornets play the Houston Rockets. We play the Toronto Raptors. But hey, we'll see what happens in that case. But overall, the Bulls at this point, what they've used this trade deadline for is to stack assets. And the thing comes back to, all right, cool, you're stacking the deck for something. That something better fucking work out. Because if it does not, you are going to be absolutely cooked. And that brings me to the final topic that I want to talk about today. AK is cooking something up. I want to be clear there. The options that he has of what he could be cooking up are simple. He could be lining himself up for a big trade at this trade deadline. I doubt that. It feels like he has something planned, but I don't know if it's going to be a big trade. But maybe it is, right? Okay, cool. We've heard that the Bulls are still engaged in talks with the Rockets, the Pelicans, for Yves Missy. They're still trying to go after, find a way to get Tari Eason, and they still very well could play a third team in a much larger trade that happens before the trade deadline closes date. All those things are very well possible for this Bulls team to do. But as I said at the top of the show, if AK is cooking something, that something better goddamn well work, because if it does not, what we saw at this trade deadline could be the turning point on what eventually gets AK fired. Now, no, I'm not saying that we have to end this season stronger. It could happen this season. It may not happen to the end of next season. It may not happen to the season after that. But what AK has done now, this is your third time completely resetting the roster. You did it first when you came in here. You traded Daniel Gafford. You traded, Wendell Carter Jr. You got Nikola Vucevic in here. You followed it up the following offseason by getting DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, Lonzo Ball. That was your first reset of the roster, right? That was after you came in, you evaluated this roster, you made your decisions. The second reshaping of this roster came after trading DeMar DeRozan, after trading Zach LaVine. You reset the roster with younger players. You brought in Josh Giddey, right? You drafted, Modest Buzelis, which is a big part of the reset here. You traded off all the parts that were there of the core except Nikola Vucevic, but you reset the roster with a different play style, a different type of makeup of a team that fit on paper a little bit better together, and that's what you did here. Now, you're now resetting the roster completely. The last player that was drafted by Garpax and Coby White is gone. Patrick Williams is now your longest tenured Bull. You have completely now reset with all players that you have brought in. This whole entire roster now is on you, right? You can't say, hey, we had like when you came in, we didn't have any draft picks or we did all this, right? Now you've completely reset and stacked the deck. If this Bulls team is not in a place where they are actually competing for a playoff in the next 2 years, to me, that jumpstarts the clock. And it's around the same time. Keep in mind, I said when AK and Eversley came in, they were going to have about a decade. We're in year 6. So you give 2 more years on the edge of that, you're getting close to that decade. And that is what it comes down to. The only thing that this trade deadline may have cooked up is finally the start of the end of Billy Donovan, Arturas Karnisovas, and Mark Eversley's run ending the Chicago Bulls team. Could be. And the reason why I say it could be, because I don't even know if Jerry Reinsdorf is awake right now. Jerry Reinsdorf may not even know none of this happened right now. He's so focused on the Sox, he may not know any of this happened right now, right? But this could be cooking the way up out of there. And I would say this too as well. If you've reset the deck now and this is a different team, if we are going into another reset and rebuild, does Billy Donovan stick around for that? Should he stick around for that? Do you want the same problems that you had on your last roster in regards to evaluating talent being used correctly with Billy Donovan? Because otherwise, you're just looking through it through the same rose-colored tinted glasses. And that's the problem that it has right now, right? So the Bulls roster is absolutely stacked. We have guards, we have second-round picks, we have cap space, we have a bunch of assets that can be used for something. But we are at the position now where AK better damn well use them, because if he does not, it needs to be the end. It needs to be the end of this bullshit-ass front office that is not taking advantage of any opportunities that they've had in front of them properly. They just have not. So you've now got your second reset, all under the same coach. If the Bulls fire Billy Donovan, if they do, and this is probably why they may not fire Billy Donovan, if the Bulls ever fire Billy Donovan, it literally jumpstarts everything, and now you're like, well, damn, you're on your third reset of the roster, you're on your second head coach. Where are we at? Right? Where are we at? The fan base already notices it. The only thing that people are waking up and waiting for is for everybody else to notice it, right? Now, I do love some of the stuff that we've heard from this front office. I love that they were playing hardball with the Houston Rockets and saying, hey, listen, you want Coby White, you're going to have to give us Jabari, you're going to have to give us Tari Eason. The Houston Rockets were basically stiff-arming him, and they said, listen, cool, we're going to trade him for nothing then. I don't know if I like that part of it, but I do like that. I love hearing that the Bulls have been in talks for like serious talks to try to get Zion Williamson in there. I love hearing that. I love hearing a lot of the things that we've heard on them making calls. But you know what it is? When it all comes down to it, the Bulls have tried to do some things, but what you're judged on is what you're actually able to complete. And what they've been able to complete so far is a bunch of questions right now. So, hey, all I can say for this is this, man. This team is in a very, very stuck off place right now. And it's in a place where, again, possibilities are endless. I want to be clear here. There are absolutely possibilities that they can do. This is not me saying, oh, they're not going to do anything. They can't possibly do anything with this shit. They can. But at the end of the day, what are you doing? You have to show. You can't keep having a possible, right? It's like the mystery box thing. If you offer somebody a boat or you say, hey, this is the mystery prize, at some point, people are like, a lot of people are going to be like, well, damn, that mystery prize can be anything, even a boat, right? And so because of that, they don't take the thing that's right in front of them. At some point, that's all AK and Eversley have really offered us is a mystery box. And what has come out of that has been a large nothing so far. Nothing so far out of it that's been really tangible. We haven't moved forward. If anything, the only thing that we've done is regress. We started this off in their second year making the playoffs. Lonzo got hurt. We got one playoff win. Ever since then, it's been less of a return on investment, less of a return on investment, less of a return on investment. It's been that one after another, repeatedly. And at some point, you have to look at it and say, all right, cool. All the possibilities. Patrick Williams was a mystery box. How much did we talk? Well, damn, if Patrick Williams just puts it together, he can be this. The mystery box is not getting us there anymore. We have to have something tangible. We have to have something real. We have to have something that actually shows that we are making progress. We aren't doing that right now. So let's see what happens, man. That's all I can say in that one. Let's see what happens. Let's see what the next step ends up being, because as it stands right now, there's nothing here at all. And we still are here, right now, looking at this thing and saying, we have not stepped forward in any shape, form, or fashion. So yes, Bulls fans are so confused, to frustrated, to downright over it. And that's just what it is when it comes down to it, man. So we'll see what happens with this team. We'll see what happens with this team. And that's all I can really say. Because again, even in my frustration of where we are right now, I realize they have tons of expirings. We have tons of second-round picks what we've seen have been sweeteners and deals. We have the potential to do something. But I don't trust AK and Eversley to turn that potential into anything because we have not been able to. We have not been able to do it. So why should we be trusting it now when we have not been able to complete it, to do it? Why should we trust it now? And that's what a lot of Bulls fans are asking themselves right now, is that because we've been burnt before by looking like we looked like we were making progress at the end of last year because we had a younger team that was doing something and finished the season strong. This season started off and we're right back to nothing. Right back to nothing burger. So we'll see what happens, man. That's all I can say, is that we'll see what happens. And you guys already know, here at Chicago Bulls Central, we're going to cover it all. The good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between, the speculation, the rumors. We're going to cover it all because that's what we do here. Because I love this team, but I wish, for God's fucking sake, at some point this team start loving us back and start actually doing something with the love that we all have inherently with this franchise. But we'll see. At one point, one thing is clear. Chicago's not standing still. And for that, cool. We got cap space. We got second-round picks. We got a guard logjam that we need to figure out. But until it turns into real size, real balance, and real direction, the questions aren't going away. Let me know. Is AK cooking up a real plan, or is he just denying the inevitable, which is going to probably be him, Billy Donovan, and Mark Eversley's firing? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. That is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Love you guys. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.